Hello there, Scapers. My name is Zenevelius, and welcome to episode 7 of Road to 1 Bill from the Grand Exchange. It has been 8 months since the last episode, which was released in November 2016. That's probably one of the longest amounts of time between episodes of any series that I've done. Actually not the worst, but one of the worst. So apologies for that. I don't really have a reason for it. I never really felt like making a video, but I've been doing a ton of merching in between, trust me. So this is going to be the first of 3 episodes I'm going to do to catch up with all the merches that have been done over this 8-month period. So yeah, by the end of these 3 episodes, 7, 8 and 9, we will be hopefully almost entirely caught up with where I am with my merches. Still lagging a bit behind because I don't want to disclose my current merches, of course, until they are complete. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. So the objectives of this series are very self-explanatory. Make 1 bill purely by buying and selling on the G. You must use legit methods, nothing that exploits any bugs or scams or etc. Not that I know of any right now, but anyway. And perhaps most importantly, I must record losses as well as profits, because this is a series about my journey from 0 to 1 bill, not just my profits from 0 to 1 bill. And I'm a very amateur mercher at best, so you're going to see all my failures and what you should try and avoid, hopefully, if you don't want to do what I've done. Although it is inevitable, especially if you've not done this sort of thing before and you're riding on a bit of luck and a bit of risk, that you will encounter some failures. So yeah, it's important to look at market trends, look at any hints or bits of news that might be able to predict what's going to happen to certain items in the future, but also don't bank on one thing. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify your portfolio, as they say in the banking world, which basically means spread out your investments into several different things. Yeah, anyway, I'll talk more about that as we get into this episode, especially as we look at particular items. But at the end of last episode, we stood at 64.8% of the way there, which is not bad going at all. We made about 133 mil in the previous episode, which is insane, despite a really bad failed merge at the end of the last episode. I'm not going to say what it was. You can check it out if you want. That was one of the worst punts I've had. That it cost me big time. But anyway, it's still 648 mil ahead of where I started before episode 1. And yeah, let's begin with the flips. So as you can see, I've flipped quite a few items. I haven't shown all of them, I don't think. Actually, I might have, just to see what the profit margins are. And this is quite normal to do because I don't rely on any FCs to check my profit margins. I don't do high value items as such, because for those high value items, of course, people will rather check the margins using an FC than just insta buying and insta selling. The one item that cost me a lot of money is the Ancient Warriors equipment patch, which I tried to find the margins of as soon as it was released. Lost about 5.2 mil on that, which is pretty crazy. I should have just guessed what the prices were, or asked some of my friends, or looked into FCs and my clan chat and things like that. But I decided, let's find the margins and let's go for it. Generally, it's not a great idea to be looking for margins on the day of release of an item, because those margins will change very, very quickly. It's better to go by word of mouth and real-time updates. But anyway, that's what I did, and that cost me 5.2 mil. But the rest were fairly small amounts, which amounted to a total of 6.5 mil loss to begin this episode, as we do every single episode. Now, for a bit of a change, I'm going to start the episode off. This is kind of in chronological order, I should say. So, but not exactly, but kind of. So that's what I'm going to stick to. And it turns out that my first merch of this episode was my most lucrative. This one I don't really have an explanation for. I think I was trying to buy a ton of spears for direct components, and I found that the margins was ridiculous. Usually these margins are very sort of short term. Margins as big as this, which is 130.9% profit margin, don't really last for this much money. But in this case it did, and I made full use of it. 39, basically 40 mil made from this merch. I was basically going to buy a ton to get direct components, but then I realized, why should I do that when I can just make money from merching these? So that's exactly what I did. And yeah, I don't really have much of an explanation for this one. It isn't exactly a well traded item. Items that aren't traded quite so often on the Grand Exchange do tend to have some pretty extreme margins, and in this case I managed to make full use of it. It was a case of an item that was fairly well traded, but not really that well traded. And I think I just caught it in a period where the supply was very low and the demand was very high. And I just got lucky, I guess. So this is a new item. I don't think I'll be able to do this again. If I did, I wouldn't be able to do it for 5k adamant spears, I think. Just got lucky here, in my opinion. So that brings us up to 33 mil. So we're on the positive side. That's a good start to the series, to the episode, should I say. Next, we have the Adrenaline Crystal. This is another item that was released with the release of the Bounty Hunter update in November. Unfortunately, I was an idiot and I forgot to screenshot when I bought the 49 Adrenaline Crystals, but as you can see from the profit margins from just buying and selling one item, that's exactly what I bought it for. So I bought 49 for 327k and sold 49 for 449.9k. So the profit margin is fairly obvious from what you can see, and because it was a day release item, I was able to do this very quickly because a lot of people are buying and selling, and the margins are all over the place. So I was able to take advantage of this. A lot of people do take advantage of these things on day release, especially if they're sought after items, and thankfully I managed to get onto that list of people who took advantage of day release items. So I only made 6 mil from this one, but the profit margin was fairly decent. And although these can be risky because items could quickly go down after release when people realize it's not very good, an Adrenaline Crystal was the kind of item that it's not a weapon, so people wouldn't, immediately realize, okay, it's really bad, I'm not going to buy it. Its advantage was fairly self-evident. It gave plus 10% adrenaline on top of what a normal adrenaline potion does, I believe, so plus 35% with this Adrenaline Crystal potion. Was it called an extreme adrenaline potion or something like that? Advanced adrenaline potion, enhanced adrenaline potion, enhanced rejuvenation potion, something like that. Anyway, so it's a pretty good potion. People wouldn't just, think, okay, it's not worth it. At the same time, it could have gone the other way as well. People could have thought, okay, this is amazing, we're going to buy as many of these as possible, and the price is going to go up. Neither of those happened, at least not immediately after the release. And yeah, I was able to take advantage of it. Although looking at the Grand Exchange graph for this one, it seems to have spiked massively in May 2017 when I guess it coincided with the release of the surprise Double XP weekend to celebrate Menafos in May 2017, but I'm not too sure why it spiked so much. Anyway, I didn't take advantage of it. From this point onwards, this was the first and last time I took advantage of this particular item. Next is another item, yet another item that came with the release of the Bounty Hunter update. I'm not actually sure what this item is about, I forgot completely, but the bottom line is I was able to take advantage of a huge profit margin, although only for 2 items. It didn't last very long, but I'm glad I took advantage of it. Again, a bit of a punt. It could have gone either way, really. I could have lost 8.9 mil rather than gaining 8.9 mil, but risk it for the biscuit and all that. So I basically times 4'd my investment and got back about 3 times what I put in. So 9 mil extra, and we're up to almost the 50 mil mark for the episode already. That's amazing. That was never gonna last though, was it? That was never gonna last. So this is an item that I'd been holding on to for a very long time. I bought it as soon as God Wars Dungeon 2 was released in March 2016 in the hope that it would go up, because 5.8 mil for a day release item seemed very low, especially a tier 85. So I was like, okay, this is definitely going to go up. Even if it isn't going to go up immediately, it will go up later. But it turns out it never went up. And instead of just holding on to it forever, I decided, okay, it's time to sell it. I cannot be bothered to hold on to it. And so I lost about 82% of how much I put in. So I only regained 18.5% of how much money I put in. Thankfully I only bought 4 blades, not 24 blades or 40 blades or 400 blades. Imagine that. So that's what I mean by diversifying your portfolio. Invest in a ton of different things at the same time, and don't put all your eggs into the same type of basket. By that I mean, I'm glad I didn't invest in all the different tier 85s that were released during God Wars Dungeon 2, because what if the entire update was a flop and no one wanted any of the weapons, then I would have failed. Even though I was investing in different weapons, I was investing in the same update, and that's also dangerous. So yeah, there's a lesson to be learned here. I only lost, I say only, but I lost 19 mil. It could have been a lot worse, and yeah, I've learned a valuable lesson from it, I think. So we're down to 29 mil, unfortunately, but at least we're not in negative figures, which we very well might have been if I bought more of these. So we're back up to the winning ways with a very familiar item from the previous episode. This is the congealed blood. It seems to be a very bankable item. It's one of those items that people are always wanting to buy. It's not in huge demand, but it's in steady demand, and the supply isn't exactly huge either. So the profit margins are massive. 228 insta sell and 498 insta buy, which means the profit margins are about 2.2 times how much you invest. It takes a very long time, I gotta say, to buy these and then sell them, which is why I did it in 2 batches of 50k and 40k, and I kept 10k for myself, I think, for the blood essences. So yeah, these are a great item to merge. It will take a long time to buy and sell, but it's very worth it as long as you keep looking at the Grand Exchange graphs to make sure you're not behind any earth-shattering update that's gonna either send these guys plummeting, in which case, okay, you've just bought a ton and then you're gonna have to sell it off for about 10% of how much you bought it for. So rip you. That's exactly what happened with the Blade of Nomura. Not quite, actually. That one steadily declined. It didn't plummet immediately after any update. On the other hand, talking from past experience, what could have happened on the positive side of things is there could have been an update that caused the value of these guys to go up massively, in which case your sell offer at a very low price could have been much higher. And just because there's no sell limit on the Grand Exchange, there's only buy limits, you would have sold your item for what you thought was originally a good price, but then because you didn't know about the new update that came out, you could have made so much more. This is exactly what happened in episode 1 or 2 of this series, and I think that might have been what inspired me to create this series. What happened in that episode was when they brought out the Grim Reaper update, I just happened to be merging onyxes or something, and I put it in to sell overnight. I came back in the morning, I looked at the update page, and they did something that caused the prices of onyxes to skyrocket. Was it onyxes or hydrixes? I'm not sure. Anyway, I made about 50 mil when I could have made 500 mil if I just waited for Monday's update to come out and I hadn't put those items in overnight, because then I would have been able to sell after the update came out and took advantage of this skyrocketing price. But anyway, yeah, I'm just rambling on a bit. It's a good lesson to learn though. Definitely is a good lesson to learn. Don't put things in for long periods of time, especially on update days like Mondays. I would just cancel bulk selling of large amounts of items to see what the update is, whether you profit or loss from that update, whether it's advantageous to your merchants or disadvantageous to your merchants, and then resume selling or buying that item after you make a decision. Great Gunkan is the next one. Haven't got too much to say about this one. This is again one of those items like the congealed blood. Not many people buy it at any great quantity. It is the highest healing food in the game, but it heals over time. Instantly 1.5k and then over time for some amount. I'm not sure how much, but it is the highest healing food in the game, so people do buy a little bit of it. There's not much supply for it either, so that makes it a great item to buy over long periods of time and then sell over long periods of time as well. So exactly the same as a congealed blood in terms of the type of item it is. I don't really know any technical terms for these items. I should probably look it up, but I'll classify this item as a steady demand and a lowish supply item. Next we have something that I'm not very accustomed to, a classical flip if you like, a very bog standard flip where you not very bog standard, the margins are still pretty high. 20% is actually quite large for a flip, but this one took me a few days, I think, not a few weeks, which is what the others usually take, or even a few months. So I just took advantage of the instantaneous margins on this one. 108k plays 130k, so I didn't take advantage of any sort of long-term trends, which is what a merch is. I took advantage of sort of short-term demand-based margins. So I made 15 mil though, which is actually pretty good. I think I might have coincided this one with, I don't know, some Scopulus week or something at Virago when people buy a ton of these, but isn't that with ice nihils, not with smoke nihils? Anyway, it was a simple case of an item that is in high demand and also in high supply, but for that reason, when an item is in high demand and high supply, you can buy and sell quickly, but the margins are small as well. So that makes it great to flip if you've got the time to spare, because they will buy and sell very quickly. So you gotta stay at the G far more frequently than you would for a different type of item. The type of item that I like to buy and sell, the type of item that is in low supply and in low demand. Next we have, I'm pretty sure this is a margin checking process. I don't know why I put it in as an actual attempted flip. But yeah, I think I insta-bought a spider leg and then insta-sold it to see the margins, and it turns out that was not a good idea because I lost 4.6 mil. Although the profit margin or the loss margin was only 3.5%, because you're dealing with hundreds of mils here, I lost almost 5 mil. So that's brought us down to 72 mil. Haven't really got much to say about this one. I don't think any FCs actually hold prices or margins for spider legs. They hold them for weapons, noxious weapons and things, but yeah, not sure what happened here. Don't try this at home, kids. Next we have the Unicorn Stallion. There's an interesting story behind this one. Pretty sure you guys are tired of hearing my stories, but I'll go through with it anyway. So I bought a ton of these as soon as I heard some rumor. It might have been a rumor, it might have been true, I'm not sure, but what eventually happened was that the special, the Unicorn Stallion special, either didn't use up adrenaline or didn't use up something else when healing you. Yeah, something along those lines. There was a patch somewhere and I thought, okay, this is a good opportunity to buy a ton of these. Worst comes to worst, it's not going to crash massively. It's not like people are going to dump them. It's not like there's a ton of them in the market in the first place. So worst comes to worst, I'll lose maybe half my investment. I won't lose all of it. And it wasn't a massive update either, so it's not like everyone was gunning for this update and hoping that it would be a positive update. So because of that, because it was a smallish update, I wouldn't have lost too much anyway. So yeah, it turns out that it worked in my favor. It wasn't just this patch that got me the 11 mil. It was also a long-term trend. These trends do have some underlying reasons behind them, but in my case, I'm not sure what the reason itself was. I bought it over a long period of time, sold it over a long period of time, and made about, 600 GP per pouch, which turns out to be 11.4 mil profit, so 22.2% profit margin. This is not a regular flip, it's kind of a merch, but unintended merch, and it's also kind of a following the update merch, or following the trend, or following the news, or following the rumor merch. So yeah, anyway, I'll take it. I'm not going to complain. And last but not least, we end with a loss. So I've been merching Zamanok Mjolnirs for ages. As soon as I realized that they could give Zamorakin components, which other Mjolnirs couldn't. Other Mjolnirs couldn't give components of their respective gods, but this one could. I've been merching it for a few episodes now, and it turns out that I was stupid to buy it at 202k, because I used to buy it at like 50k and sell it for 202k. This time I bought 300 for 202k each, but then I didn't have much success with the profit margins, so instead of waiting around for it to crash, I decided, okay, I'll just sell it back instantly, and I did sell back 204 instantly, because I was a bit worried they might crash for whatever reason, and they weren't really selling. People weren't really buying them at a reasonable profit margin. So basically I broke even with this one, only lost 408k, and I think I kept the other 96 for myself to get Zamorakin components out of. So yeah, 1% loss, which basically means I played it safe and just sold it instantly, and yeah, there's not much to report here. But generally speaking, it used to be a good item to flip. Another of those low supply, low demand items, although I think the supply increased after people started making guides on how you can make money off these by doing enchanted keys. I think that's the one. So we end episode 7. It's been a bit of a rambly episode, I'm sorry about that. We end episode 7 on 731 mil. We've made 83 mil in this episode, which isn't too bad, but it could be a lot better. And we're almost 3/4 of the way there, so hopefully by the end of episode 9, which is when we should catch up with present day, we will have completed the series. If not, then hopefully by episode 10. Unless there is a big surprising fail waiting for you guys. You might be able to guess what that fail is. It happened earlier this month. Enough said. Anyway, look forward to episodes 8 and 9, guys. They will come out shortly. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. I will see you in the next one. Oh, importantly, if you have any suggestions for different layouts, or you want me to do things differently in this series, then let me know, because I've been doing it the same simple boring way. Try to spice things up by adding profit margins and red glows for negatives, but apart from that I haven't really changed much over the last 7 episodes. So if you want me to change something, let me know, and I will try and get better at merching, guys. I apologize for my incompetence.
I'll take